Welcome. I'm thrilled to be with you here tonight. I am Nikki Maloney, and I am an integrated literacy facilitator at the AIM Institute for Learning and Research. I've had the pleasure of working with many of Upper Darby's extraordinary educators, watching them prioritize literacy and support their use of evidence-based practices in their classroom to ensure that their students, your children, become proficient readers. Liz Brenner acknowledged the importance of literacy education and what it means for our students, how it affects their well-being, their future opportunities, and their contributions to society. I think we can all agree on the importance of literacy, so let's talk about what it takes to become a skilled reader and ways in which you can support what your children's teachers are doing in the classroom at home. I'd like to start with recognizing the importance of oral language. There's a high correlation between overall language abilities and reading achievement. When we engage in effective communication by listening and speaking to our children, we have an opportunity to develop their oral language skills, which lay the foundation for them to develop reading and writing skills. Parents can support the instruction students are receiving in school by reinforcing oral language development at home. You can engage in activities centered on word meanings and relationships. For example, while you and your kids are preparing or eating dinner, ask them how many items they can name in a category. For our young kiddos, you could ask them how many colors they can name, or what are some things that you might find at the zoo. You could talk about movies or, actors or cartoon characters. There are many card games, board games, and apps out there for various age levels that focus on words and word meanings. Anything that motivates our kids to play with words is a great way to practice these important semantic skills. Some of my favorites include apples to apples, headbands, heads up, catchphrase, balderdash, boggle. I played a ton of boggle with my kiddos over Thanksgiving. Scattergories, card games, Scrabble, and the Scrabble Go app. And of course, 20 questions is always a good one. Moving on, children begin understanding and using grammar earlier than you might think. When a 1 year old begins connecting a subject with an action, for example, they see a car going down the street and they might say, car, go. They're already connecting words that have different roles in communication. So you can confirm their observation and help expand their expressive vocabulary. So when they say car, go, you might say, yes, I see that car driving down the street. Or you might ask, what color is the car you see? Or you might ask, where do you think they're going? So again, depending on the age of the child, you would vary your questions. Exposing children to a variety of sentence structures. For example, while you're at the dinner table or outside playing catch or on a walk, you can help develop your child's ability to communicate more complex sentences by providing a variety of sentence starters that they can complete. For example, again, you're just sitting around, you could say, when I feel hungry, and then you can kind of model how you would complete that sentence. Or, again, taking a walk, you might say, if it snows, or, since I finished my homework, and just having that modeled and helping them to really use a variety of sentence structures. And then next, listening comprehension and discussion are key elements in drawing students' attention to language that is used for effective communication. Our children's ability to make these connections verbally influences their ability to do so in written language. Giving our kids the opportunity to practice their own storytelling is really important, and encouraging them to include more details about the setting or characters in the story, or sequence of events. And even if it's not a story in particular, but having your kids sequence the events of their day can be very helpful. You could help them develop a strategy to reach conclusions. So the one that I like is called know, learn, guess. So you're asking them to ask themselves, what do I know? What did I learn? And what can I guess? One of my favorite activities to develop effective communication is to take turns explaining the steps involved in accomplishing a particular task. So again, this could be getting ready for school, brushing their teeth. One of my favorites is asking them to think about if they have a pet, what they might do to care for that pet from the very moment that they wake up to the very moment that they rest their head on their pillow at night. So again, depending on the type of pet, whether it's a cat or a dog or a fish, or whether it's a puppy versus an elderly dog, things might really look different. Now that we've established the importance of oral language development, let's consider the 6 overarching elements in the development of skilled reading. The first one is print awareness. From a young age, babies, toddlers, and preschoolers develop an understanding that print carries meaning by observing their parents, siblings, and loved ones reading and being read to. As we hold a book in our hands, children see that they are handled in a certain way, that they have front and back covers, that they contain letters and words, that English reads from left to right. It's important that we don't take their understanding of this for granted, and that in setting them up for success, we make time to explicitly talk about these print concepts. Before we begin to connect the sounds of speech with letters, our children must have the ability to hear, identify, and play with the sounds in spoken language, including rhymes, syllables, and the individual sounds and words. Your children's teachers are building this phonological and phonemic awareness in kindergarten through 2nd grade. You can support this learning through fun activities that only take a few minutes. Understanding the building blocks is important. Just like children learn to crawl, then walk, then run, there is a progression of these skills. So starting out with rhyme, singing nursery rhymes or playing a simple guess the word game can really help develop your child's skills in this area. Start by making sure that they know what you're asking them to do by explaining that words that rhyme have the same ending sounds. So you could start with their name and you could say, what's your name? And say the child's name is Jack. You'd say, yes, your name is Jack. I want you to guess the word I'm thinking of. My word rhymes with Jack, but begins with P. Then you can work with other words, like my word is how, but it starts with K, right? Once the child gives you their answer, so for how, right, if they provide cow, you can confirm and say, yes, cow rhymes with how. So again, they're hearing it back again. Then we move on to syllables, okay? So again, you can use your child's name. For example, if it's Jack, you can say, what's your name? And they would repeat, or they would tell you Jack. And then you could say, how many claps are in Jack? And you would model that for them. How many claps are in Jack? We clap once, Jack, okay? And then they can clap once and they can say Jack. Or again, twice, 3 times, depending on their name. But the importance is that you are making sure that they're hearing you, so they're repeating it back, and then they're clapping for how many syllables that they hear, and you're confirming that again. And then you can move through a list of words. So you can ask them to say fox, how many claps are in fox, fox, right? How many claps are in pickle, pickle, how many claps are in December, right? So you'd say December, December, and then they would clap it out, December. Moving on. Then at this point, after you've worked with rhyme and you've worked with syllables, you can do some work with individual sounds. And what you want them to do is you want them to hear, identify, and play with the sounds. And so when we talk about sounds, especially at the very early stages, we talk about the first or the initial sound, and that's the easiest one for them to identify, right, and isolate. And then we talk about the final sound. And then we talk about the medial sound, that middle sound, which is usually the vowel sound and can be more challenging than the initial and the final. So in order to have them hear the same sound in a number of words, you might say mat, mug, man. Okay, and they'd repeat back, mat, mug, man. Then ask them, what sound do you hear that's the same in all of those words? And they might provide you with Then you would ask them, where do you hear the sound in mat, mug, man, right? And they might identify that they're hearing it at the beginning, and you would confirm that for them. Yes, you hear that. That is the first sound. That is the initial sound that you hear. The beautiful thing about building your child's phonological and phonemic awareness skills is that they can be done literally anywhere, because all you need is to speak and listen. There are no letters or letter names at this point. It is purely the sounds. It's all auditory. So there are a lot of really beautiful alliterative books that will be shared out in the resource list. Also, there are a lot of books that have this auditory bombardment of initial sounds or same sounds that can be found on YouTube. And oftentimes, they're read to by celebrities or librarians. So that'll be shared out in the resources as well. Let's continue. Once our children can recognize the sounds in spoken words, they can begin to connect the sounds of speech with letters. So establishing the idea that letters represent sounds of spoken language and that there is a predictable relationship between letters and sounds, that is established through systematic phonics instruction, okay? So again, we're working toward accuracy first and then automaticity. So in the classroom, your teachers, especially in kindergarten, they are presenting the child, again, after they've done lots of work with the phonological and phonemic awareness, just sounds only, when they're trying to make that connection, that when we see a letter, or what I like to call a sound picture, because that's what it is. It is a picture of sound. You're saying letter name is, and say it's an F or something. So the child would say the letter name, F, and then you'd say sound is, and then they would present you with the sound, that they've been practicing. But it's very important, again, some children really need to establish this relationship by understanding that letters don't make sounds. The sounds are represented by the letters. When we talk about reading with accuracy and expression, we're talking about fluency. Your children's teachers know the importance of building a strong foundation, and therefore they are developing your children's accuracy and then working on their automaticity and expression. So you can help reinforce accuracy and then automaticity in the three elements that we've just discussed so far, meaning print awareness, recognizing, connecting the sounds of speech with letters. So in those areas first, the phonological and phonemic awareness, we want them to be fluent with those skills. And then when they start to segment and blend the sounds together to start decoding and reading, we want them to be able to blend those sounds together, first with accuracy and then with automaticity. So in the classroom, again, they are introduced systematically and cumulatively to the predictable patterns and positions of letters that represent the sounds that they know. And as children read by blending individual sounds together, parents can support teachers by encouraging their children to use their phonic decoding and not relying on other cues like pictures or context. And a great example of this is that, say you have a very simple board book even, and say the sentence reads, "This is an elm," meaning like an elm tree, but the only picture on the page is a tree. So we want to stay away from using the cue, of the picture, a picture of a tree, because we need them to phonically decode the word elm, having three sounds, o, and blending those together. So by reinforcing that at home, you are helping your children develop the word form area of the brain that will allow them to attack unfamiliar words. Now we have the importance of knowing what each word means. So this is where we see the connection between all the oral language development that we spoke of and then the written word. So for example, if you're reading a book about animals and you come across the word canine, you can point out very point of contact quickly that canine is another word for dog. That way they've heard that vocabulary, you're beginning to expose them to different words that, that mean the same thing. And so that when they come across the word and they're attempting to decode it, having experience or exposure with that word is going to help them sound it out and then be able to confirm it. So here we have, our previewing and predicting as to what they think the story might be about, plus them using their phonic decoding, and then that oral vocabulary knowledge comes into play and they're able to really know what each word means. Last thing, we read to comprehend. And in our emergent readers, content and comprehension are taught through read alouds and discussion. And then when reading becomes automatic, actually accurate first, then automatic, and students are consistently using their phonic decoding skills, and those are often practiced by using decodable texts, which really help them practice the patterns that they have been explicitly taught. Once that becomes accurate and automatic and they're consistently using that phonic decoding, then teachers and parents can support and encourage wide reading by using a variety of texts that express voices that represent cultural diversity. So again, we're going to make sure that you all have lots of resources with many different ways in which you can gain access, whether it's through audible.com, because again, there's different types of reading. We read with our eyes, we can read with our ears, and even especially if a child is struggling to learn to read, by having them listen to books on tape and through software like audible.com, they're still able to get that vocabulary while they're working on their decoding skills in school and then again at home. But what's really nice is that this is where during wide reading that children continue to access vocabulary and develop other language skills. So wide reading promotes students learning the meaning of many thousands of new words that can't be directly taught, growing their knowledge of the world and how it works, improving their thinking and reasoning skills, and learning to utilize more complex reading strategies. Students can practice the strategies and skills that they've learned in class lessons, which will increase the transfer of those skills. And this, to support wide reading experiences, like I mentioned, assistive technology can be used to support students with poor word recognition skills, like audible.com. Teachers work hard also to activate, build, and connect students' background knowledge. To support what teachers are doing in the classroom, you can remember the ABCs of background knowledge. You can help activate your child's background knowledge. Ask them what they may know about the subject at hand prior to reading, whether they're reading about an individual or an animal or outer space. Then help them build relevant background knowledge by providing visuals, referencing other stories, TV shows, movies, vocabulary, and experiences with which they may be familiar. And any virtual or simulated experiences that are available to you, you should take advantage of, because building relevant background knowledge prior to reading is really going to help with your child's comprehension. You can ask guided questions like, what do you think's happening? Or based on the title and the picture on the cover, what do you think might happen in the story? In addition, you may introduce and make vocabulary connections. So again, if say there's a picture of a planet or something on the front of the book, and you know that it's going to be about outer space and things that have to do with that, you can introduce key vocabulary. So again, if the child says, I think the story is going to be about spacemen, you might say, yes, it very well could have spacemen and spacewomen, which are called astronauts. So again, just very point of contact, but you're giving them that vocabulary before they enter the reading experience. Then after reading about the subject at hand, whether you're reading it to them or they're reading it to you, you can connect. That's the last one. So we did A, activate; B, build; and C is connect. We're trying to connect their prior knowledge with what information that they've collected through the reading experience. So what predictions have they corrected, and compare what they wanted to know with what they learned by reading or listening to the current material. Again, there are many online resources that we're going to share. One of my favorites is storylineonline.net. And you can just click tiles of books. There are thousands of them, and they're read by all sorts of individuals: men, women, celebrities, librarians, you name it. So kids really like that. There's a really fun activity called the 5 W's and 1 H And the W's are who, what, where, when, and why, and the H is how. This helps students with comprehension and calls attention to the function of words in a sentence. So practicing this orally will help with transfer into written responses. I thought we could try one together, so I'll just kind of walk through it and you can just, um, you know, think about what the answer might be. So first I'm going to read the sentence, which is Upper Darby teachers and parents are working together tonight to help our children become strong readers. So we always want to start with the who or what. So in this sentence, who or what are we talking about? Teachers and parents. Yes. Okay. Now, which one, what kind, or how many teachers and parents? We're talking about Upper Darby teachers and parents. Okay. And what are the Upper Darby teachers and parents doing? Okay. They're working together. Okay. And whoops, I went ahead a little bit. What are the Upper Darby teachers and parents doing? Right? They are helping our children become strong readers. And lastly, when is this happening? Yep, tonight. Okay. So well done, everyone. I hope you liked that activity. And I just want to thank everyone for taking the time to gather together or to watch this recording. I want to just share with you that I feel as though that at the heart of learning is seeing relationships and making connections. Therefore, teachers and parents working together makes for a powerful relationship. And connecting what your children are learning at school with the support you can give at home will help them become strong readers. So, thank you very much. I hope you all stay safe and well. And I hope you've enjoyed tonight's presentation on elementary literacy, and look out for those wonderful resources that will be coming your way soon. Take care.